All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead video for today, leading up to the third episode for The Walking Dead Season 10. In this one, we'll do our second Q&A for this week, with the leading sort of start-off question being, who would win, Alfa and the Whisperers versus Virginia and the Pioneers? Fans cry outrage. How dare you, Trev? How dare you compare the Whisperers with Alfa to the stupid group from Fear the Walking Dead? So, QCCanales is the one who brought through the question, who said, Alfa versus Virginia, who would win, Trev? So, let's set up this scenario here, and I think of this one sort of as a little bit of a Cowboys versus Indians type of thing, with the Indians probably being the Whisperers. So you've got Virginia, right, from Fear the Walking Dead. If you guys didn't watch, Fear the Walking Dead Season 5, second half, I'll just give you a rundown of what Virginia has. So, with the Pioneers, she has a lot of firepower. They have a lot of Texas, different rifles and shotguns and all kinds of different firepower as far as the guns are concerned. Cowboys, and lots of firepower. Lots of people as well too. I think they said somewhere around in the 800s or 700s or something like that in terms of the Pioneers and how many people they have. Multiple locations. They have oil. They have the SWAT vehicle now, for example, from Althea. They have lots of vehicles. They have lots of different things. They've pretty much got it made, right? But they're from Fear the Walking Dead, so keep that in mind here. The Whisperers with Alfa, very much the opposite. They have a few guns. And they have a few. They have butcher knives and different knives and close hand-to-hand weapons and things like this. But then, of course, Alfa has her mega herd, right, as well too. So if you want to see who I think would win between the two. I guess I'll go with the political answer on this one, even though Virginia has kind of the manpower and she has, a ridiculous amount of firepower and resources and everything. I think I'm going to go with the Indians on this one, and I think I'm going to go with Alfa, as somehow, with her cunning, somehow would be able to figure this one out and would be able to take down the different communities that Virginia has. And I just get this sense, I don't know what the sense is, it's just this kind of underlying sense that for some reason, because Virginia's in Fear the Walking Dead, and she's sort of a Fear the Walking Dead villain, that somehow, I'm not sure, somehow she just would lose. Like one way or another, Alfa and the Whisperers kind of have to win this one with Beta, even though they're totally outgunned and totally outmanned and everything. Somehow they would find a way to take this one. Somehow they would find a way to defeat Virginia and the Pioneers. And I am sorry if anyone takes offense to that one. I don't know why. It just feels like, for some reason, because the Pioneers are in Fear the Walking Dead, you just think that somehow they'd be incompetent and somehow Alfa and Beta would figure it out, would take them down. But they shouldn't, though. Like if you think about it, you compare the numbers, you compare the amount of firepower that the Pioneers have, it shouldn't go that way, but it's just like, for me, it's kind of overpowering. Logically, I'm sitting here saying, like, you look at this scenario, you got to go with the group that has way more people, way more firepower, way more oil and resources and everything. In real life, that's what you'd go with. But, in this universe, I don't know, somehow Alfa and the Whisperers are so battle-tested, they're so hardened, and they're so crafty that you almost think with the incompetence of the the Pioneers in Fear the Walking Dead, somehow Alfa and Beta would pull this one out. So that's going to be my political answer for this one, even though it probably should be totally the opposite if you logically think about it without emotion, just based on the amount of resources and the amount of stuff that the Pioneers have. But let's just say Alfa brings in her entire Whisper herd, and they unleash all the gunfire that they have and everything, and add in the incompetence that that we can expect to see, and Alfa and Beta would figure this one out. So that'll be my answer for that question. You guys can leave a comment below who you think would win between that one. And like I said, I'm sorry if anyone is offended by even asking the question, but why not? Like, it's supposed to be the same universe. We should be able to ask questions like that. It doesn't make sense that we wouldn't. But I just get the sense people will be. I can hear people crying on the other side already when they haven't even seen this video yet at the time of recording, right? Dany Daigle says, traffic goes both ways. I know people coming back because it's been dark. We're not watching a comedy show. It's supposed to be horror. Yeah, I think it's just kind of the way things went with, again, to mention it, Fear the Walking Dead Season 5, second half, and even part of its first half, too, where they mixed in kind of some comedy and some kind of lighter stuff like that. It's just so weird to go from that as you're watching that for 16 weeks or you're watching that for 8 weeks, and then you go right into The Walking Dead, which is completely different. The zombies are horrifying. The zombies are really scary. They're very intimidating. They're very fearsome. They don't feel like they're, I don't know, some kind of CG joke or something. They feel like they're really serious. You got a lady being eaten by zombies in an absolutely brutal fashion. And then you have Alpha and Beta, ripping apart Walker guts and all this stuff, blood everywhere and everything. It's just really dark and scary and everything. And you're right, it's supposed to be like that. So I guess it's not a bad thing, although some people might get a bit turned off by it because it's not just a dark episode in terms of the the brutality of it or the savagery of it or just the effects of it, but Alpha's psychology is also very dark, right? Her kind of viewpoint, her worldview is very dark as well too. So it's not just so simply that seeing zombies eat a lady is brutal, which it is, and the other stuff that they do is kind of dark, which it is, but it's also their mindset is very bleak and very dark in a lot of ways too. So that adds a lot to it, as well. SickAsMalaria says, can we take a moment to appreciate the Gamma is the little girl from Hocus Pocus? So that's nice. I suppose we can take a moment from that. I'm really surprised to see her in Thora Birch in The Walking Dead. I think it's really cool, though. I wonder if maybe she was a fan and she just wanted to do it. And so, they found kind of a role for her because she is, a recognizable actress. If you've seen from the 90s to 2000s, if you've seen Hocus Pocus, for example, or if you've seen American Beauty, that's one that a lot of people that's really popular film. A lot of people have seen that one. So it's actually kind of a dark kind of movie if you think about it, especially based on ages, like Kevin Spacey's the age of his character, and then there's some Illuminati connected stuff going on there with underagers. I'll get back into that with the Flat Earth discussion pretty soon with a part 2 video for that one. Heads up for that if you guys want to see that. If you don't, then just ignore it. Watch the next Walking Dead videos, no problem. It's kind of cool to see because it's someone who's recognizable. It's just like Ryan Hurst, like people watch Sons of Anarchy, they're a big fan of him, and then they see him in Walking Dead. It's just cool. It just adds kind of a cool factor to see somebody from something else in The Walking Dead is really cool. So Hocus Pocus, I guess so. I think my sister had that movie when we were younger. I do, on VHS tape. So I think so. I'm sure I've seen it at least 3 or 4 times because she used to play it on repeat. And I'd be like, I want to watch Turtles. Michonne's mom says, the best villains were Shane and Merel because the fans love them. The only thing that Negan ushered in was the downfall of The Walking Dead. So even if Alfa killed many, many more, it will not erase Negan's kill of Glenn and The Walking Dead. Very true. I always wonder sometimes what it would be like if he had not killed Glenn and it was just Abraham or it was somebody else entirely and Glenn survived. Like if more people would be watching the show than are now. I just think that Glenn is someone who was underappreciated always, and it wasn't until he was finally killed off that people kind of missed seeing him. So I think that's a lot of what went on with that. But it was probably the biggest character death they ever did in The Walking Dead, the Glenn Abraham double kill in the season 7 premiere. Even the Pike scene, even though you have like 12 people, it still doesn't. It was the Red Fair. It was pretty epic and everything in terms of the horror aspect of it. But it's still, for some reason, it doesn't top the season 7 premiere for me in terms of the buzz and in terms of the reaction and in terms of how it affected the fan base. Not quite the same way. For whatever reason that is. I don't know. Maybe just more years on, more episodes. So, it's just not exactly the same. But there are lots of big character deaths throughout The Walking Dead. I just say I would put Glenn as probably number 1 right now. Still, probably. And Abraham, too. He's in there, too, as well, right? And part of it. So, Darwin Smith said, the Whisperers are more like the Wolves. And that's true. I kind of forgot about the Wolves to mention. With the Alpha Wolf, who was in Gotham afterwards. He played the Mad Hatter, which he was really good as. He's just got kind of a weird creepy thing going on there that kind of is like, the way his eyes look and stuff. He's just got this weird kind of creepy vibe about him. So he's really good as a villain, and he was good as the Alpha Wolf and Wolves Not Far. That was a fun thing that we kind of had fun with online for a while. A lot of people were fans of the Wolves, so that was cool. And they were pretty dark, and they have a lot of similarities with the Whisperers. They're savage. They use like knives. They're kind of cunning in a way, and they're vicious, and so the Wolves were a good group of villains as well too. We can't forget about them, and the Whisperers do have a lot of similarities to them. It almost feels like the Whisperers are just a little bit further gone than the Wolves, I'd say. Joshua Stucatur says, I feel that the Whisperer way of life is dumb. They risk becoming infected, such as what happened to Father Gabriel, by being around the zombies all the time, by wearing the zombie stuff. Well, they don't have too much zombie blood on them. Most of what they do is they wear the mask, and then they wear a lot of clothing to mask their smell, so that the walkers around them don't get a hint. Like Beta's got all these layers on and all this stuff, and then the mask on with the hair at the back, so they really can't see any difference. They can't tell, which is pretty cool. So it's not. It might look dirtier than it actually probably is, because they're not wearing fresh guts all the time. But they probably do risk some kind of infection or contamination, cross-contamination from being around walkers all the time, and being so close by them in their close vicinity. But as long as there's no direct touching transfer or anything like that, and then touching themselves, then maybe it works out okay for them. They're able to do it, and it's fine for them. But it is a risky way of life, but in a way it's an inversion. So you've got them where they're, instead of avoiding the dead and trying to be afraid and being afraid of the dead and fighting the dead all the time, they're embracing the dead and they're using them as their protectors. So they're going against them. So instead of the dead being the number one, I guess, threat to them throughout their lives in the zombie apocalypse, they have gone the opposite way, and the dead are their number one protector. And really their threat is other survivors out there. It's not the dead. The dead are not a threat to them anymore. CJL96 says, I hope they remove Beta's mask and go, oh shit, it's Opie from Sons of Anarchy. So I think he hides his face, because if the Fear the Walking Dead again crossover is true, and he's like a recording artist and he's a recognizable face, he probably hides his face, because then people will know that he was this recognizable, famous, possibly country singer or something like that everybody kind of knows, like one of those people. And so he hides his face because he was probably out there in the media. And so he doesn't want people to know that he was this kind of famous singer guy, because he's not that guy anymore. Which you could say no one really is to begin with anyway. Of course, there's promoted, like there's the artist that's promoted, but the person inside is not, equivalent to the artist that is promoted, that people see in the lights and everything. Girl with no name, Spooner says, is it just me, Trev? Or is this once magnificent show declining? I really thought the show could go on without Rick Grimes. Now I truly think the show is dying without him. Even so, I will continue to watch until the last episode. Hell, I will even watch Fear. The show is seriously not the same since Rick's exit. Where are the days of season 5? Guess you can't go back, Bob. So, I mean, the deal is like, it's going to happen eventually. Eventually, after many, many years, if the show continues on into the teens of seasons, which it will, certain people are going to leave. There may be a point in which Norman Reedus has to leave, after a few years from now or something like that. I hope he won't, but eventually that's going to happen, and it's probably true as well, too, that your show is only as big as the stars and the characters that you create. They're doing absolutely the best they can. It's not something that really, I would say, the current team that's like Angela Kang and everybody who's doing it really has any control over. I mean, it's something where they probably had a choice. They either killed Rick off, or they have him leave so he's not in every season and he goes into the movies or something like this instead. So, I mean, it's just what it is, man. It's a different, version than the comics. The comics, even with that too, eventually Charlie Adler, it sounds like from interviews, he had enough after 15 years of doing the art every day, every week, week after week after week, year after year after year. So, people have to move on eventually. There's nothing you can do about it. They're doing the best they can, but you're also right to a degree as well too, which is that not having your dependables, not having some of your A-listers, or as they're leaving, like Michonne and Rick and that kind of thing. I mean, the others have to do the best they can to try to make the story interesting and everything and make it good. And I think they're doing the best they can. And really, I mean, we all just have to deal with it. It's not like they're ignoring that that's true. It's not like they're ignoring that Rick is gone. They've added that into the story. It's part of the story now too, that Rick is gone. So they're equally as sad as we are to see that. But the show must go on, right? There's that famous saying, right? The show must go on. So it's what it is. There's really no sense in complaining about it, because even though sometimes it's like, kind of would be cool if we could have saw Rick in the premiere or things like this. It might have been, a little bit better than what it was to have, that recognizable face there with Daryl and with the others and interacting with them all. And it's weird not to see him there, but they've got to do the best they can with what they have. And it's not anyone's fault that happens. It's just a natural kind of run go of things and how things play through. So there's nothing you can do. We can be excited to watch the movies. At least we have that to look forward to for him. So it's not like he's totally, just been killed off and you'll never see the character again. You'll see the character in the future, and there'll be more coming for that. At least one movie, maybe more than that, maybe three if they are able to follow through with all three at a staggered release type of schedule. And that's great. So at least we have that to look forward to. We can still enjoy the series for what it is, but just recognize and understand that reality comes into play as well too. People get older, and people can't do the same job forever. If you work at a particular company or something, just think about in the last 10 years or 15 years, how many people are still around doing the same job they were doing after 9, 10 years, 15 years with Charlie Adler comparison. It's not too many. There's some people that are, lifers, as they would call them, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's like, okay, that's cool. That shows how dedicated they were to a cause. I don't think it's an insult to say someone is really, like a lifer. They're really into they love what they do so much they want to do it forever. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a respectable thing, at least the way I was brought up. Because you want to have experts, you want to have people that master a certain field for society and continue to do that. That's a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing that they do that, but you have to understand that it's just how it is, man. It's just how it is. Nothing you can do about it. So to not end on a sad note, Jared Santiago says, "Is it just me, or does Beta kind of sound like Thanos / Josh Brolin?" So he does sort of sound like Thanos. He's kind of the big bad of The Walking Dead, I guess, or Cable or whatever. Josh Brolin's really cool as well too. Did a great job as Thanos, and he does sound a lot like him. He does sound quite a bit like him. I don't know if he's drawing inspiration from him. Probably not. It's probably just the way he sounds like under the gear and the mask and everything. And, to come across scary, he can't just speak normally. He's got to get into the character. He's got to talk to the dead. He's got to do all that stuff. So I think he's found the perfect voice for that, for what you would expect a monster like him to sound like. That'll be it for today's video, guys. Let me know what you think. A comparison between the current villains for Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. Who would win if it was to go down between the two? If you liked the video, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and subscribe at the bottom left if you're new. That's it for this one. See you guys again soon for another. As always, this is Trev saying peace later, guys. See you soon.